Like many individuals who call America their home, most were raised up, starting in elementary school, to recite or at least know of the Pledge of Allegiance. A pledge that expresses one allegiance to the American flag by using nonverbal gestures, such as facing the flag, placing one's hand over their heart, while verbally reciting a passage that expresses one allegiance to America. Now, why would we pledge to a flag? Well, because it's a metonymic symbol that symbolically represents what it means to be American. It is a sign of their freedom, their liberty, and human rights as an individual, which has now become rhetoric to many Americans, in that many believe in the words and meanings within the passage and gestures used. However, over the past couple years, there has been controversy over whether or not it is right to have minors in public schools recite the Pledge of Allegiance because it is a speech act in the sense that it is asking one to pledge their full allegiance to an idea that many don't believe minors completely understand. Many question if it is taking away public school students' First Amendment rights away. Many accuse that in the United States educational system, the pledge has become more of a ritual that is now performed in public schools across the nation. This accusation makes sense because many schools ask their students to say the allegiance daily, no matter the age. By this occurring, some argue that many students don't know what they are pledging, and by creating a ritual-like system where a class recites the passage, it may unknowingly to the student take away their rights, because like said, it is a speech act in that one is pledging the oath to America. By creating a ritual in which minors recite this passage, the Allegiance has now raised debates over whether or not students should even start reciting the passage and pledge as minors. Since this controversy started, many students have went against partaking in the Pledge of Allegiance even when their peers stand to recite the passage. However, despite no law against the individual from not taking part in this act, some students are still punished because it may be seen as a sign of disrespect towards their peers or even own teacher. An example of this would be a recent student featured on CNN who explained her own experience and addressed that even though reciting the pledge is not a written rule, many teachers in the public school system still find it disrespectful when a student doesn't recite the speech. This said, in some cases, teachers will go to the extent of taking away an individual's First Amendment by giving them the choice to recite the pledge or face a punishment. In this case, the particular student didn't comply to her teacher's request, which resulted in a punishment. This event explains how having a daily or ritual system in reciting this oath in a public school can impact students negatively when they are taken away the choice to pledge or not. By looking at public schools in the eyes of a student such as this student, it is clear that the flag becomes less of a symbol and the rhetoric behind saying the pledge really loses its meaning, and more so negatively is seen now as a speech act because it is now a forced oath. Despite these questions, there are also individuals who argue that by having students recite the speech at a young age, it can also give them knowledge over what they are pledging. If the pledge is taught and presented correctly to a minor, a child can understand the pledge completely, and in time, since it is optional, will have a better idea if they want to continue reciting the pledge or not later in the future. Doing my own research, after viewing a middle schooler, here is his idea of the pledge and why he continues to recite it. So, being a middle schooler in your 8th grade year, how do you view the Pledge of Allegiance?
As an eighth grader, I view the Pledge of Allegiance as a song that shows gratitude and love towards our country.
Now, is it a routine in your school? In other words, is it a rule that you have to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Or how is it?
Well, every morning we'll all stand up and we'll say our normal routine, and then we'll end with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Is this required or?
Um, well, they never tell us that it's required or not, but I've never seen someone not say it, so
Have you never seen anybody sit down?
no, I have not.
If someone did sit down, what would you think?
I would think that they're not grateful towards our country.
Okay, thank you. Given that he was taught at a young age what the Pledge of Allegiance was, he continues to recite it every day with his peers. While there is controversy, I would have to argue that in the end it comes down to the student's own choice. I do not see anything wrong by giving a student the choice in partaking in this speech act. However, I do believe that if they decide to not participate in the pledge because they do not believe in giving the oath, they have every right not to continue pledging. Generally, though, I do believe that by having a ritual of pledging daily, young students will gain more knowledge in what the Pledge of Allegiance is, and I find that by doing so, it gives individuals a better reason why they don't want to contribute in announcing this oath.